I'd never forget the state of the West End when 1,000 workers had just come directly from a fancy dress charity party and they all went to work. What drew you to Ibiza back in 2004?
I think my mum suggested me.
Your mum suggested?
Yeah. But she didn't suggest Ibiza. She suggested some sort of posh resort place, and I was like, nah, Ibiza.
Original Shipwrecks.
Oh, God.
And how they all came about and how obscenely wild they were compared to what you would get now. I mean, because you couldn't do half the stuff on the boat that we did then that you could do now. Hello, Ed. Thank you very much for joining us at One More Tune. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. It's actually my birthday today.
So happy birthday, mate. Happy birthday. It's mine in 2 days. And as you know, we're both Aquarius, which is another strange thing. I think we've had this discussion before where we were talking about how many Aquariuses seem to live in Ibiza, which was very...
Yeah, it's rather obscene amount compared to...
It's a very, very odd one. I remember everyone having their birthdays in like late January, in February, and people having their birthdays on the same dates and stuff like that. But obviously there's something in our star sign that attracts us to Ibiza. So can I just ask you, what was your first year working there? Because you started off...
2004. So,
wow.
2004. So I was like 20 years old. And actually, I think I arrived in like the beginning of June. I was in Playa de Bossa for a month. Couldn't find any work.
Then,
And this is when the only sort of bars or anything around there was Bora and Space. Not much else.
Yeah, it was a bit...
Well, DC-10, but that's kind of by the airport.
It was a bit sparse around there, wasn't it? So you spent a month over there. I did toy with the idea myself of working over there. But the community at that particular era within San Antonio was incredible. 2004, 5, 6. It's really started because obviously the late 90s had a great community, early 2000s, but it kind of, that 2005 era, it exploded, didn't it? And the Vivas come along the years after and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I think so. I think we kind of joined at sort of just about the right time. You know, the sort of the early noughties. I think the Ibiza was 1999. They always said that was a golden sort of time, but I think it was at its peak in the noughties, really.
For the workers community, yes, and I just mentioned Viva there, which people don't know what that is. It was an additional workers bar besides the Ship, and I don't know what year that opened in.
Oh, Nathan's one,
but it just exploded.
2006.
Thousands of workers, and obviously Brexit has put a massive hold on that. But you don't have a British passport, do you?
I've got a British and an Irish.
Yes.
Yeah. But funnily enough, I remember Spike was telling me that apparently some workers, 2 British people, wanted to apply for a job after Brexit, and they didn't even know that they couldn't apply for an NIE anymore. They had to get a visa. And they were like, what? And they was like, no, we don't pay attention to politics. I was like, well, you should. So it's very unfortunate, obviously, for a lot of people. I think the workers... It was starting to go down a little bit because, certainly for the PRs, I seem to remember, the government was putting more restrictions on them. They had to have like those,
the vest,
bibs, and
bibs.
and then they kind of made the job almost illegal by the stage of Brexit anyway. So I think even if it hadn't happened, it was reducing the number quite significantly. I
suppose another thing is you can't stay there for more than 90 days, isn't it?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, it's a 90-day period, 3 months,
yeah.
Which isn't a season.
For some people, if they lose all their money, that tends to be a season.
I think some of the students come over for like 90 days and didn't work, and I don't know where they got their money from, of course. So what drew you to Ibiza back in 2004?
Well, everyone was going on about it, and I was like, I think my mum suggested me.
Your
Just work as
mum suggested.
yeah, but she didn't suggest Ibiza. She suggested some sort of posh resort place, and I was like, nah, Ibiza, much more fabulous.
What, to go and work? Yeah.
Yeah. Just sort of seasonal work for the summer. But I was 20 years old, and I like dance music, and I liked sort of clubbing, and I heard all the stories, Kevin and Perry movie, etc. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to check this out.
Were you DJing at the time?
No. I didn't start till a couple of years later, till 2006.
Right. Okay. So you've been doing that a lot, and that's kind of been getting slowly better and better, and you're getting more and more bookings and more renowned throughout the scene. And I believe you're even applying to tour in the US soon as well.
I mean, the new administration might make it a bit difficult, but I don't know. We'll see what comes our way. It's on the cards for sure, but well, we'll see.
How many seasons did you do in Ibiza?
Let's see, something like four seasons.
4 seasons. And were you at the Curry Club? Were you at the Curry Club?
That was the only place I actually worked.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Curry Club's now been flattened.
Yeah. No, I saw.
I walked past it last year, and I was just like, "What?" And they're building apartments on the.
Yeah, it's still the same owner. He's basically just renting out the apartments to people who work at Ocean Beach, I gather. So he's already got a guaranteed rent.
Wow! So they've actually finished building the apartments and they've rented them out already. Yeah. God, they just throw them up over there, but there must have been a reason for it. I think we always used to go to Curry Club, see you guys and Andy, and try the I never forget that vodka chili that we had.
Oh,
Andy,
gosh,
yeah. What is it? You put a load of shit. No. Andy had said you put chili into vodka and you let it settle for like a year or so, and you have a shot of vodka, but it's hot. It burns your throat. Right. My first year there, I had some with Andy, so I don't know whether you might not have had it there.
I purposely avoid shots anyway, so that was something I think if Andy had put that anywhere near me, I'd have told him to sod off. So.
Yeah, no. Well, I wasn't, unfortunately, that way inclined. So were you playing, were you DJing much in Ibiza when in your working days there?
Yeah, on and off. I think my first gig was actually with Steve Valverde. He gave me a shot at DJ competition they were doing in Paradis. So my first actual set in Ibiza was in Paradis for like a DJ competition. The winner got a set at Miami WMC, which
really?
But the thing is, it was all house DJs, and he said, "Look, you're not going to win because you're playing trance, but I just fancy a bit of different things in music."
And playing at Paradis as well. It is an absolutely physically stunning club, and he just because I remember. I actually played when I played vinyl in 2002. I played an hour set there, and it was just really surreal knowing that you're playing at a club in Ibiza, and it's just Paradis. I think is one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yeah, the booth's quite small, but it's kind of cool. You just step on this little platform, and you're in the sort of main Colosseum.
Yeah, it's now situated somewhere different, I believe, the DJ booth. I don't because before you're on about the DJ booth where you go up the stairs and you're looking out over where the water part is. Yeah, I think it's moved to a different part of the club now.
Well, that's sacrilegious.
I might be wrong. But I do know they used to move the DJ booth when the water come on.
Oh, well, I mean, you don't want water on the pit.
No. It used to be over by the bar. To the right where you were looking at the audience. It used to be over in the bar in the corner. Many a good night in Paradis, and I wish them all the best, and I hope they still soldier on for another, God, how many years have they been open now? 40, 50?
At least 40, yeah. Is it like the late 70s they opened? I think? Yeah, definitely.
I think they might even be
40.
think they might even be celebrating another birthday soon. You know,
Yeah.
we used to go to Pepe's birthday parties there.
Oh, I remember that. Free
Yes.
bar and free paella.
Oh yeah, and
That was
at the end
nightmare.
of it, you just have like honestly, if people aren't aware of what Pepe is the owner of Paradis, and I'm not sure if he still does it, but he had a birthday party every year for everyone in San An. He just invited along. It was a daytime
Yeah.
event, wasn't it? I think he even put the water on at some
Yeah, it
point.
was like on a Sunday in August, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the bar, he just stocked the bar, filled everywhere with food, and it was all free. And
Yeah.
they
It
were
did get a
very,
bit
very
manic. It did get a
yeah,
bit manic in later seasons. Like you'd have to queue for about an hour at the
yeah.
bar just to get a free drink.
Then
You
there
know,
was
you'd have
like,
thought it'd be faster, but
and at the end of the day, there'd be like these horrible drinks that no one has ever touched ever, but people are still drinking them. And it was what drew you to? You're very much a trance DJ. I mean, what drew you into the trance scene? Is that being something that you just discovered in Ibiza, or was it
oh, no, I
something
knew
that
of
you've
it
already had a
before.
passion for?
No, I knew of it before. I think 1996. Robert Miles' Children was like the first trance track I
I
heard.
remember that. I remember when that came out. Yeah, at
And
university then.
And yeah, and then Ministry of Sound was like pushing the Trance Nation compilations heavily. So I was well aware of it by the late 90s and the early noughties. You know, I was, it was probably one of my favorite genres just because I love energy in music. Hence why I'm hard trance. You know, the more energetic, the better.
Yeah, yeah,
The kind of stuff that will shake the hell out of you. You know,
yeah, and
that
it's
kind of thing.
becoming really
So
in vogue at the
the
moment,
energy and the
isn't it?
speeds, obviously was what attracted it to me the most. So when I did take up DJing, that was trance and primarily hard trance was always going to be the genre I was going to
Ever
choose.
hard house?
Yeah, hard house is sort of in there as well. Sort of
Yeah, yeah.
elements of that hard techno too. It's all been fun.
Okay, okay. And obviously you played for one more time for us, not last year, the year before, I believe.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Which is great. I thank you very much for that. And I am 100% sure that you're playing for us again this year.
Yeah, no, that's great news.
I
I
believe
can't wait to come
my
back.
partner in crime has already spoken to you.
Yeah, Nick has. Yes, he's mentioned it.
Yeah. So I'm actually 110%. I've put your name on the artwork. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you'll be joining us. We're trying to get some of our generation of workers back to Ibiza for that week because you were there last year, weren't you, for that week? And
Yeah, well, bits of it.
oh
Well, the
no, you
first half.
flew back the next day after Kevin and Perry, didn't you?
I did. I was
Whoa.
kind of limited in my time, unfortunately.
That must have been shocking.
Yeah, it was it was okay. Those 8 hours actually flew by quite quickly, actually. But yeah, the I didn't get a late night checkout, which was annoying. So I only got like about 4 hours, 3 hours sleep, bad sleep at that, and then
yeah.
But then I kind of made up for it by sleeping on to
All
put
right.
myself in the shade. So I was like, I had my sunglasses on, so they wouldn't have known the difference.
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, you kindly also helped us record 2019, our first ever One More Time project, all of the sets, and you also recorded for us the Kevin and Perry sets this year. Main Room are going to be going live as a part of our promotion for Kevin and Perry.
We're all set to get them out.
Yeah, we're set to go, and it's going to be a big week. So we're excited about lots of old workers coming back to Ibiza for this particular week, because it seems like, as you might have seen last year, the old faces are cropping up that around that week, which is great to see.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Obviously I wasn't there for all of it last time. Just to see how the year takes place, and hopefully I'll be able to be there for a good chunk of it again this time.
Yes, you will. You've got no choice. So you're in Ibiza. Do you still keep in touch with a lot of the worker friends that you made, like Chris and all those guys? I take it.
No, Chris I keep in touch with. Andy and Josh, obviously from the Color Club, I've always been in touch with them. We're in touch at least once a month.
That's great. That's great. Friends for life, aren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah, no, for sure. They're both doing well at where they're working now. And yeah, everyone's a little bit older, but the spirit of Ibiza hasn't gone away.
No,
And it's always nice to come out. So even sometimes, even in the winter or in the spring, on the odd occasion, just to see them when they're not as busy.
Yeah.
So and I keep in touch with Oscar from Troppy and a few other
the Trance West End King. Yeah, he tried to keep it alive in the West End, didn't he, with Troppy for
and
many years.
John from Tropicanas as well. There's still it's nice to know there's still a good chunk of people who are still there.
Yes, I saw all of them. I saw Oscar when I was over. I saw Troppy, John from Troppy, and it's great to go back over. I wish I could go over more, but I think life just gets in the way nowadays.
That's the thing, and it also Ibiza isn't any cheaper, so you have to take your budget into consideration as well.
Yeah,
but,
of course, and it's no longer really a case of sleeping in someone's spare room or stuff like that when you're on the sofa, because they just haven't got them because the accommodation is so expensive.
No, they've been through it tough. Certainly after the pandemic, the rent shot up. It's pretty awful, really.
Yeah, it's scary. Could you imagine paying those prices when we were there?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to go out. Like the whole actual West End economy would just tank.
Unfortunately, it has calmed down a bit on the West End. So tell me more about your DJing and where you're going with it now. What have you got planned for your bookings? Must be coming in for this summer, and where you're going with it?
Yeah, I should be at a couple of festivals in Europe. Nature One, I believe, and Street Parade. I did that for the first time in Zurich last year, and I think the guys want me back. But hopefully, by the time this podcast is out, I'll have a better answer on that.
Yeah. Us promoters, we leave it quite late.
As a dad now, I have to kind of balance it. I can't take too many. So
how many flights are you looking to get this year? I know you like to keep a tab on your flights.
I want to try and knock them down. I think most of the gigs this year, I'm trying to make sure they're actually in Ireland, or more specifically in Dublin, with my own events, because that just means that, it doesn't take up the whole weekend going back and forth.
Especially with your little girl and everything. So tell me about your own events. What are they involving, and how are you promoting those, etc.?
Well, on the day this was recorded, we've got on a couple of days' time on Friday, we've got Lange, Alan Watts and Renegade System coming over to our club it's not the club I own, it's the club I hired, Hive, in Dublin. So it's a 5-hour event from 10 till 3. Because there's still a bit of restrictions here in terms of hours. We can only go till 3 in the morning. So restricting amount of hours we can do in the club. And drinks costs aren't that great either, meaning not to mention the hotel prices in Dublin as well. So anyone who's coming from outside, it's quite an expensive night so you have to make sure that the lineup's good enough to be able to get the numbers in
so
that you require.
You've got our man in Lange. What a DJ. What a hero.
Yeah, no, it's the first time he's been here in like 10 years or something.
Yeah, so he's a great guy, and we love working with him on Kevin and Perry. And when he drops that one tune, the place goes absolutely spastic. The Follow Me. I actually witnessed with my own eyes a girl crying when that tune come on. She was right down the front, but front right, and
it's an absolute timeless classic. But we've actually done a collaboration which we started last year, and we've just been sending back and forth. So I think he's fairly certain he's got it completed, because I left the final part to him. So we should be giving it a first spin on Friday as well. So
really,
he's on after me. So it'll either be at the last track of my set or the first of his.
I knew that you guys were doing something together. I know you mentioned it, but that's really good. It's great. You ended up sitting next to him on the plane coming over, didn't you?
Yeah, just literally by pure coincidence. Yeah,
I was coming over to Ibiza.
I couldn't even. I had to fly via Luton because the flight from Dublin was like ridiculously extortionate, and the timing wasn't that good either. So I took a flight to Luton, and then just sure enough, there he was. So I saw him in the queue, and then we found out we were sat on the other side of the aisle. So it was just like drink, and
Awesome.
then we carried it on at Golden Buddha the next afternoon.
I think he carried it on the whole week. He was there. He had a good old time.
Sounds like Stuart. Yeah,
he had a great time. I was because we kind of, I don't know why we did this, but we booked in the boat party for the next day after Kevin and Perry. And
the floater. Yes. Brilliant title.
And it was a fantastic event. It was mainly for the people who'd booked on the One More Time holiday, the over 40s group. And I tell you what, I was expecting a 40-50% no turn up, no show. And I think we only got about a 10% no show. And I was just like, it was rocking. And Lange played. I don't think he'd had very little sleep, and it was just on. It was just a really, really good day. But I think we will try and space it out a little bit next time. It's just this year we couldn't. The scheduling was too tight on everything. So I think
I think that's the thing when people know that certainly if they bought the ticket in advance, they do take into account, and that they're smart enough to as soon as they're home, they go to bed and knock themselves out fast, and then they'll be fresh. Yeah, fresh. Some do, some don't. But I think as we're all a bit older, we're probably a little bit more disciplined in. If we've got to be somewhere at a certain time, we'll do our best to knock ourselves out.
There is that way of looking at it. I suppose if I was younger, we would have gone straight through. Me and Dean were talking about the original Shipwrecks.
Oh God!
The other day, and how they all came about, and how obscenely wild they were compared to what you would get now. I mean, because you couldn't do half the stuff on the boat that we did then that you could do now. I mean, we had no security. We had people doing anything they wanted, and
there was certainly more freedom then, and obviously a lot more maritime restrictions now in that.
Of course, I think they had no choice. I think they had a couple of accidents with the boats, and over the years, well, it's bound to happen anywhere, isn't it? It happens here in Navalia, but I think there's more and more restrictions introduced every single year for a lot of the verticals within Ibiza, and it always favours the superpowers that be.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about trance music and the industry. The evolution of trance has had its highs, big highs in the 90s, early 2000s. Had its lows. It's had some of its big DJs move away from trance, go more into the EDM, electronic music, whatever you want to call it.
I'd say Tiesto was the most famous for doing that one.
Yeah. Now, how do you think it's been kept alive and relevant? Because it really has had a hard time with this EDM. I think EDM had a big part to play with it. I think it was a big
I'd say probably in the early 10s, probably when it was really having a bit of a hard time, because like techno, for example, had slowed right down. I remember Chris Liebing, used to be a real hard techno DJ, was playing something like 124 BPM.
Yeah.
Space closing. How much is that? So obviously, everyone has sort of slowed it down, and it just that obviously kind of isolated fans. But Armin van Buuren was kind of still keeping it going, and the fans were, the people who love trance, they weren't fall out of it, and there was different bits of elements coming in, but I think enough smart people evolved. Armin went a little bit EDM to try and entice people back into trance, which I think was, although a lot of people criticise him for, I think that was the right decision to try and get some people back, because if you just rip on people for listening to EDM, they're not going to come listen to your trance music. You have to just say, okay, you like this music, why not come over and try this out?
He's kept his radio station Trance, though, hasn't he?
State of Trance is over 1,200 episodes now. So
absolutely. He's been there, and he's a big part of you have the Tiestos, the Ferry Corstens, the Paul Van Dykes, all those guys. Are there any up and coming trance DJs or producers that you are particularly admiring at the moment? Maybe some that we should be looking out for.
I'd say Renegade System. I mean, he's certainly becoming sort of.
I'm writing this down, by the way.
Yeah. he's sort of become the kind of the prince of hard trance. So Scott Project was the king, then I think he's becoming the prince.
I met Scott Project, and he was my hero.
He's never had a night with him.
He was booked for God's Kitchen in Birmingham. And he only just got there because he missed. There was some problem with his flight, so I think they missed a connection or something. But he just got there, and I remember when Scott Project U come out. Is a huge track, and I've never met him before. And I remember I wanted that track so much. I went to a place called Hard to Find Records. Do you remember them? Yeah. And they basically, if you couldn't find a track, you go there. And I remember it was one of the ones I spent a ridiculous amount of money on. I remember to this day the postman delivering it to me, and I loved the tune, and I've still got it. And to meet him at God's Kitchen, and it was just like, wow, I just met my heroes. So and then he played the after party. So so you would say that Renegade System is more like the new Scott, a newer version.
That's V2? Yeah, I think he's like the newer generation. Like, curiously enough, a lot of trance has kind of gone split up again. Some dance has kind of come back up. Like Hannah Lange, for example, would be another.
Hanging out and Ben Hemsley, you know.
Ben Hemsley, yeah. Well, he's got quite a range actually. He can be quite
very multi-genre. But I've heard him play several times, and some of the tunes that he plays, that it's just all over the place, generic wise.
Maddox is quite good. If you're looking on the uplifting side, I'd say, Brian Cunny and Jock are still kind of the kings of the uplifting, and Alien Feeder, of course, but there are still a few sort of people coming in, like Min Oblivion's quite good, and actually we've got Alan Watts, who's, he's quite well established already, but he always does plenty of uplifting. I don't know if he's done a Ibiza yet.
No, it's good to hear a few names there. I mean, obviously you're an ex-Ibiza worker. We have Hannah Lange, who's an ex-Ibiza worker. She worked in Highlander.
Yeah, Maria Healy used to be an ex-Ibiza worker. I don't know.
Sam Devine. Hannah Wants was over in Ibiza for a couple of seasons, and we all wish her well. She's got poorly again, bless her. So Hannah, if you're watching,
I did hear about that.
Yeah, if you're watching, we all the family, Ibiza family and worker network, send our best wishes to you. But yeah, the girl workers seem to have smashed it, haven't they?
Yeah, I think maybe out of all the genres, Trance is probably there's the least amount of women to men ratio.
Oh, really?
I've never even looked at it. Like in techno, there's way more like Charlotte DeWitt, Emily Lenz, Paula Temple, and how, for example, Sam Divine, all that lot. It's a much more equal playing field. So I'm glad that Trance is starting to take a few more, like with Alessandro Moncon and a few others. So
there's
a lot more work to do on it to make it more equal, but I think it seems to be going in the right direction.
There was less people playing it as well, I suppose. I mean, because it's only really started coming. I'd say people, there haven't been that many who've retired, but there's certainly more playing than there ever was. I think because technology's made it easier, and producing music has become a little bit easier. Anyone can sort of take it up and make a start of it with relative ease. Plus, with social media and all the guidance, and everything just free on YouTube. I would given my right arm for knowing a lot of this stuff back then. I was speaking to AJ Gibson, who is the original resident from God's Kitchen, yesterday about that and how people break through as a DJ nowadays. And it is, maybe you'll get a big track and get lucky with a track and burst through like that. But I think the key is still consistency, and consistency digitally as well. I think it does go hand in hand. Content creation is, whether you like it or not, you got to do it.
That's true.
With social media, it's one of those.
It's momentum now, which seems to be the big thing. Like if you've got one thing which is picking up, a good example would be Adele and Dea. Like she's been playing a long time. She plays on vinyl, but in the last couple of years, her lot has really shot up.
It's a peak. Plays at peak.
Yes. Yeah, so she just shot up sort of quite quickly, and without actually making that much music, just because her track selection is that good. and has sort of an appeal, certainly to like the elder Chance generation as well,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
she does
yeah.
mainly classics.
She's
And
earned her,
so,
she's earned her stripes.
yeah, so it's the
Yeah.
momentum. Like you just have to, if you know you're on the momentum of something, you need to make sure that whatever is done next needs to be better. So
Absolutely. I mean, it is crazy that some artists are becoming famous overnight because of TikTok or Instagram. And that
yeah,
I still, I work in social media. I manage social media platforms for multiple DJs, world renowned DJs, and I still find it shocking that you can literally stand there, talk about music, and be famous. And
yeah,
it's just that when that magic source happens online and people connect with what you're doing, it's incredible what can be achieved. So
yeah.
yeah,
There's certainly the route has become sort of a lot faster. And it might not be entirely merit based, but at the same time, the ones who have got to where they have quite quickly, they do actually have some talent. So it's not, most people are able to discern if these people are rubbish or not.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a bit
Even
of
on
a
social
mixture.
media, you can figure out if this person is worth their salt or not.
What do you find the biggest challenge within your DJ career so far? Is there anything that's particularly challenging that you find?
Uh, social media is actually a challenging bit. I mean, I kind of now, I'm sure you do the same. I actually have a schedule of posts. So I kind of just write it out once a month. So I know I need to post something each every day.
Yeah,
Um, just to kind of keep things going, and sometimes like I post my radio show, gets barely any reactions.
yeah,
I
yeah,
post
yeah.
something about my cats. No,
Yeah,
and
I
then,
know. It's
oh,
yeah.
by the way, there's a track coming out,
Well,
so
this is very true of many artists. Many artists approach us and say, "My socials aren't doing well. I've got hundreds of thousands of people on my socials. Why am I not getting any engagement?" And I look at their socials,
yeah,
and they're literally just posting events, music. And to be honest, it's just like an advertising board of what you're doing. And the algorithm doesn't really like that because it's not of interest. And as soon as you start mixing it up with more of those behind the scenes, real human activities, moments, cats, what you do,
yeah,
what you're eating, all of a sudden your socials start coming alive. And they start once you start creating your socials as a character of your own. I think that's where the trick is. And that's how
yeah.
some have been very, very successful. Um, and what do you think separates a good DJ nowadays from a average DJ?
Um, yeah, I think it's probably just a unique sound. Certainly from a producer point of view, like you've got to find something which people sort of haven't had before. I mean, it's very tricky when it's in a set of parameters, and a lot of people are playing today similar stuff to you. But if there's, and sometimes you just won't get it. I think to this day, I don't think I've had any track that's really skyrocketed. Probably maybe one remix, and a couple of others, but sometimes and it just clicks, and then everyone will take it. But that it's still an ongoing creative process.
I think it's a case of cutting through the noise because there's so many releases every week.
Yeah, I've
There's,
said that too, and obviously
yeah,
being on the right label and releasing at the right time. Like certainly, if the Beatport charts to be considered, sometimes like big acts, even from like the techno scene, will just release a track that say it's trance, and it will just sit at number one on the chart for years. And even if you've got a really good track, I think this happened to Paul Webster
hmm
last year, or was it the year before? I think it was the year before. He had a remix of Ben Gold, which was being played all over the summer. Everyone was playing that thing. And anyway, it was released, and then the same week it came out, there was Skrillex had a remix of Fine Day, and it just was misjarred into the chart section, and he just didn't get that number one. And it can
wow,
help people like that. I mean, he got um, it went very high on the Estates charts, 50 tracks. I think it was second actually.
yeah.
Um, so, everyone loved his track, but, sometimes, Beatport's, um, I think there still needs to be work done on that. It's not an entirely fair
Yeah, I'm
merit-based
not.
chart system.
I'm actually really happy that I'm not It I would everyone would love to be a DJ, and I had my 1210s when I was younger, and that's what brought me to Ibiza, my 1210s, and I don't think I'd enjoy it nowadays. I think it's just too much of a battle. I know how much of a battle it is just putting these bloody events on,
Yeah.
let alone what it's like trying to make a name for yourself within a music scene. But I'm seeing your name more and more. So you're definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you think it's an absolute... do you have to be a producer nowadays, as well as a DJ?
I'd say pretty much. I mean, the last person I think he managed to get quite consistently far without making a record was probably Eddie Halliwell. And
I was just thinking about Eddie, yeah.
That's because of his wizard skills behind the decks. It's practically impossible. Because that's when I started. It was like, well, Eddie can do that. I'm also called Ed. I play some of the stuff to him. Surely Eddie will just take me.
Yeah.
It took me 6 years to realize, nah.
He is incredible. We posted some of his footage on God's Kitchen from a party that he did many years ago when he was doing all of his crabbing and all that lot. And the post went viral. Everyone loves the way he used to mix, very powerful, and just using the mixer just incredibly firmly.
No, he changed the game certainly for DJ skills. Obviously he didn't invent scratching, but was probably definitely the first, I think, to bring scratching into dance music. One of the first, anyway.
One of the first, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I followed Eddie for a long time, so I agree with that.
Yeah, but also the sort of the loop effects and everything like that, and just that particular sound. So he was a big influence on my sort of sound as well.
I'd like to see him again soon. So, What is next for you? In the next, what's the next big target for you this year?
Well, it's mainly sort of the events. Like I said earlier, we've got about momentum. It seems that my events in Dublin now seem to be getting a bit of momentum. So we've got one every other month coming up till July.
Right.
So the focus is on making sure that the events run well. The event sessions is also my radio show, which I do month to month. So I celebrate 200 episodes in May. So I've got a big lineup and a live broadcast planned for that. And so that's sort of the main focus. I mean, there's some tracks coming out on Hard Trance Europe and Hard Trance Revolution Records, and a couple of others which are still to be signed. So there'll be a few tracks, and I've got a couple of gigs in other countries too. But it's because we're recording this in January, a lot of it is still being finalised.
Okay. Any interesting collabs coming up? Like obviously you have Lange. Lange is coming out. Any others like that in the pipeline?
Good enough. No, I haven't actually collaborated with anyone.
There we go. If anyone's listening, Ed wants to collab.
Yeah.
Where do you see trance in 5 years?
Yeah.
It's a
the old stuff seems to be, there's a lot of DJs who are playing sort of the older sort of 90s sound that kind of more produced better than what it would have been then. I'd say that fad might continue for a bit more. I don't really know. I mean, it certainly got more energetic and a bit faster and a bit harder, which is good,
Yeah.
And I hope that continues for a while. But I think there'll always be someone new bringing in something, so it might slow down again.
I've always said that music goes in circles with BPM. It will go really slow and then it will get faster and faster. Like, for example, in the early 2000s, the minimal started to come in, DC.
Yeah, well, I think the late 2000s, the minimal really got
slow and you wouldn't believe it. And it's now gone literally on its head, where I've been going to festivals down on Zurcher Beach playing, and I don't know what BPM they're playing, but it's just stomping. Darren Styles, I went to see.
Darren, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
he's always been consistently fast. So
Darren and his manager were actually over, so it's good to see them. But yeah, I think the festival had a good 5,000-6,000 people there, all listening to hardstyle. You know, so yeah, you're right. People are enjoying their hard stuff at the moment. Let's just talk about some just quick fire questions. Do you have any vinyl CDJs or USB preference?
Yeah, I don't have a pair of 1210s. I stupidly sold them years ago. I have played for Wax Formats a couple of times. So I do have some vinyl. I just have to go around a friend's house to practice on them. And obviously USBs for me, CDs are kind of irrelevant now. So, because you just carry it on the USB and, when you're away. So yeah, I prefer USBs. I did start, on vinyl, but I was starting just when
rolling over.
DJs were starting to really become into the foreground.
Okay. Who's your favorite artist at the moment? Do you have a favorite?
No, I can choose.
You can ask that. You get yourself in trouble.
It's really hard to say. Who's really floating it for me at the moment?
Favorite nightclub in Ibiza?
Amnesia, I think.
Yeah. I think it's.
You go there for one thing only, and that's to dance. And it's probably one of the only clubs where the VIP are tucked in out the way.
Yeah, I love Amnesia. I was devastated when Space closed. Space was
Space was good because it had all these different rooms.
We used to see you at Carl Cox quite a lot. You and Chris were there banging
Carl
away.
Cox Tuesdays. Carl Cox Tuesdays were always spectacular.
Yeah.
I never got to play Space. Actually, I haven't played Amnesia either. But
it's a tough cookie to crack, and I know a lot of people who haven't played it. Amnesia, so I'm sure it will happen for you one day.
Sooner or later. Yeah.
And just so we've been on about 42 minutes. Okay, let's just do this. So, just coming into the end of our conversation, we're just trying to keep this short and sweet. What would be a track for you that is like a track that never fails to light up the dance floor? Is there something, if you're struggling here and you're like, what am I going to do? Do you have any secret weapons?
Actually, this wouldn't really be Trance. Kind of on the cusp of it. I'd say it'd be Turntables' remix of Camisa, Let Me Show You.
Yes.
Because as soon as that riff comes in, it brightens up anybody's day. Especially if you're doing like the Mold Picasso Lizard mashup of that, it never fails. Yeah. The moment that riff kicks in, then that's it. They're away.
Yeah. No, that's a great track. And looking back on your time in Ibiza, what would you tell your younger self if you could? Would you do it any differently?
I think I'd do it pretty much the same. I would tell myself to start making music a lot earlier than when I did.
When did you start?
It was 2013, 2014. So yeah, I should have really got
good 10 years.
Yeah, because I didn't do it till 2006. Well, I didn't take up teaching until 2006. So I would tell myself, you ain't going to get there and on DJing alone. You need to start making your own tracks and make your own sound.
But I suppose when you first start off, it's kind of a hobby. And it's just like, or did you start off like, I am going to be a DJ that's playing out, making money? Because some people do, I've spoken to some people.
I was a realist, I still needed a job to pay the bills, and I always made sure that was taken care of. The big thing about working at the Curry Club at the time was the hours were the best because you start at 6 in the evening and then finish about 1 in the morning, so you can still go to the clubs.
Amazing. Yeah.
And you can still go to the beach a little bit during the day. So,
those are great hours. Do you know what I was doing at the last drop? I was doing 4 till 4, 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's a tough shit.
With no air conditioning. Me and Pleasant Day, we almost died. Honest to God, we looked like extras from Lord of the Rings by the end of the song.
I do remember once in the Curry Club in the kitchen, the extractor fan went down, and that was nasty. The heat from the tandoori oven just And we were just trying our best not to sweat into the food. It was
no, it's. I mean, we used to have these. We went and bought these. You know, the big industrial fans that you've got, and we put two of them behind this little bar, and it was August, and it was just like blasting warm air at us, and we're just, oh my God,
it's like having a hairdryer behind you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, but what we were good back at that generation, we worked hard and we played hard. You know, like you've got, as you mentioned earlier, you're people like Spike, and you've got everybody else who worked on the West End. They still respected that they had a job, you know, and they still went to work. Some of them didn't, but
those who didn't last very long. You know, I don't think that, you know, I mean, obviously everyone bangs on about workers' rights, but at the end of the day, you're there to do a job. You've been hired to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you're only doing it for a short term. And because back then the season was only really 4 months. I mean, now it's practically 6.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, those are 4 intense months where they've got to keep their business afloat for 12. So you got to show up. And it doesn't matter what condition you're in, just show up.
Yeah.
Do it.
I mean, the amount of people who used to come back from DC10 just for work, or Space just for work,
or Golden Gate.
And the ship party. Obviously, I'd never forget the state of the West End when 1,000 workers had just come directly from a fancy dress charity party, and they all went to work without getting changed, and the owner must have been.
It was a shame I was never able to make it to those, because it always clashed with my hours.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
It was practically impossible for me to get that time off. You know, I was in quite a privileged job. You know, it wasn't in the West End, you know, so it wasn't late. But I did also have to speak Spanish to the customers, you know, so that's why my lingo is still reasonably.
Do you speak Spanish, do you?
Sí, hablo un poco español. Vivo 5 años en Ibiza el año pasado. No pasa nada.
I never knew that. No,
you needed it. You needed it at the Curry Club because, you know, we did have Spanish customers in as well, and they would expect you to explain the food to them in Spanish. Normally it was este picante, which means it's spicy.
Yes, and obviously Andy, he spoke Spanish as well.
Yeah, Andy and Josh were
marry a Spanish lady?
Colombian.
Colombian, that was it. Yeah, so did you learn your Spanish while you were over in Ibiza?
Yeah, pretty much. Learned it in the kitchen, and Andy and Josh sort of gave me a few sort of phrases, and I just picked it up as I went along. I think that winter, was it 2005, 2006, was when it really came together. And I used to even go to the Spanish, you know, La Noche, just near the Mermaid. I went there a couple of times. I remember one time the bouncer was saying, no inglés, no inglés. And I was like, sí, pero aquí con mi amigos de trabajo. And he was like, thanks.
Yeah. No, I remember we used to go to La Noche a lot. It was a great bar. We had a lot of fun in there. But yeah, I had no idea that you actually got a bit of a grasp of Spanish, because so many of us didn't.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. You know, if you didn't need it, then you didn't have to. But it was just with the job that I had, it was required. So it was a handy skill to pick up. So,
have you continued using it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was in Tenerife. I was in Tenerife last week, and you know, obviously, largely I'm in Spain. I'm usually a tourist, so you know, I've got the lingo mainly to order food and explain the bills and so on and so forth. Probably won't be so good. If I'm in a bank.
That's more than a good percentage of people that may have lived in Ibiza for 20 years. So, no, that's really good. No.
Again, it depended on the industry you're working in at the time and what the clientele was. You know, if you're in the West End, a good portion of clientele were English.
It was all English, wasn't it? Everything was English. I think Ocean Beach now and those sort of bars, they're obviously because it's Brexit. I think everyone speaks Spanish in there, or are Spanish, or are from Europe in some way. But I think there's a lot of people with language skills. I think they're more important nowadays than they probably used to be. Okay then, Ed, so final question, which I do ask every single one of the guests on this show. What would be, besides the track that you just mentioned, what would be your one more tune of the night?
You know, we're probably going to go back full circle with this. Actually, it would be Robert Miles' Children.
Excellent.
The reason why is Robert Miles actually intended it as a final track. Because back in the day when he wrote it, like the Italians were playing real hard stuff. And, you know, so he made the Children as kind of a wind down track.
I never knew that.
You know, because the Italian modes are still manic to this day, but, you know, there was a lot of accidents after the raids, all the rest of it. And so it was kind of a sort of reflection track. It's like, look, just drive home safe, think of the children, that kind of thing. So, I would say that would be my one more tune. It just winds everyone down just a bit.
Really
There's
glad
enough
you
of a
said
beat
that.
to keep things moving.
It has a bit of a memory for me as well. I will never forget when I first heard that tune. I went to university called Middlesex University. We had several campuses. All of our campuses in the 90s had nightclubs. It was awesome. Five nightclubs. And there was a particular night. We had the Forum, the Enfield, Trent Park. You know where Trent Park is, and they had big festivals there. Now, I remember when I first heard it, a friend of mine called Nathan, he was a DJ in a bar in Tottenham, shouted me over to this DJ booth. Remember the old DJ booths where it was like behind a grill, and it was like it wasn't open at all, and you were kind of hidden away. And he goes, "You've got to listen to this," and he put Robert Miles' Children on, and I'll never forget. And I was just like, you know, it's one of those tracks that you just never ever forget when you first heard it. And I was just like, this is phenomenal. Is it 96? Was it?
Yeah, 1996. I remember seeing it on Top of the Pops. And my uncle played it to me when I was driving me around in his car. So yeah, that's where it started.
I knew it was going to be an absolute hit, and it's just one of those that you never forget. I mean, it's just an anthem, isn't it? It really is. But anyway,
I remember actually, just one more story anecdote on that was when Robert Miles died, I think it was like the middle of the week, I actually had a gig in Trance Sanctuary on Saturday, and I was the final set of the night, like 6 a.m, and I was like, okay, I could finally use Robert Miles' Children as it was intended, you know, and I'll just never forget it, just like cutting the music completely dead, and then just boom, boom, you know, just everyone just started applauding, knew exactly what was coming, because you know, he just died, so it was it's a good track to sort of wind people down on.
It's really good to end on. That's been a fantastic chat, Ed.
It's been brilliant.
We will see you again in Ibiza, I imagine a couple of times this year, because you're coming over for Kevin and Perry, yeah?
I pretty intend to.
I think we've spoken anyway. And obviously one more time. So thank you very much for your time. And you can now get back to dad duties.
Thanks, Dexter.